All right, well, good morning. I am going to, happy to introduce Dwayne Richardson, who's welcome back for a second round of interviews. So Dwayne's been asked to do a presentation of his choosing and his topic, so I'm excited to hear a little bit more. I'm curious about what you have chosen. And so Dwayne comes to us with 29 years of healthcare experience. Close, plus or minus couple, and spent the last over 17 in leadership roles, so various leadership roles. So we can ask a little bit more about that. So Dwayne, come on up and I'll take it over.
So thank you, Jolene, and thank you to all of you there. So first of all, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to be brought back to Memorial. This was very encouraging for me. It was something that I wanted to hear, and it's something that I want to be a part of. And so, and being given that opportunity to be brought back, I first wanted to, start off with some gratitude. And again, because not often that we get to start meetings with gratitude there. You guys may have heard of something about my story of trying to get here. This time I said this must have been a trial and tribulation, kind of my hazing to come here today. But also I had the same experience actually going back home, similar with that. So I was actually talking with the surgical team, and they were saying, well, Dwayne, how was your trip out here? I said, it was pretty good. And I said, I got on a small airplane with propellers. And I said, here was the crazy thing. The propeller starts one at a time. I wasn't prepared for that. And I said, I was good with that as long as that, because I'm a big guy. I said, as long as that they don't make me move because of my size. Well, guess what? Going home, I have an exit row. There's a guy as big as I am, and we're sitting next to each other. The guy came over, he says, oh no, this can't happen. And I'm the one that's moved, and that was the embarrassing part. But that was pretty great there as well. But now coming here, this was a great opportunity. This was preset, and I thought things would be good because the weather would be good. So in Baltimore, I had one delay, it was an hour and a half, and then there was another delay. And so now I figured, I have a big difference from the time at Seattle to the time that plane leaves to Yakima. So even though I didn't get into Seattle until about 8:45 or so, had some time to spend within the airport. Now I'm getting ready, hey, I have to get back on this double propeller plane again. That starts up one at a time, right? And so all of a sudden they said, there's a delay. And I said, okay, there's another delay. And then they announced another delay. And then they said, it's due to fog. And I said, okay, where's the fog? Is it here? Is it Yakima? They said, it's in Yakima. And so then they said, we'll give you an update at 11:10. And the report was, it's canceled. And my first reaction was, oh no. But I'm always usually prepared. I'm a person that I always try to anticipate things. So I actually came this whole entire day wearing a suit already, just in case my luggage was lost. Okay? So I have 3 suits total in my luggage case, but I was already wearing a suit, but I was prepared. And so what I decided to do was that, and first of all, they won't give us our money back either, because it was due to natural things. And so I decided, well, I'm going to have to drive. And so that was something different for me. Okay, I can drive. I can rent a car. I rented a car, and they gave me a little small car, and they said all these things of, do you need this kind of vehicle? I said, no, just give me the front of the mill. I have no idea where I'm going. So now I'm driving. I'm on that long road, 100 miles, right? And I'm going up, and I'm going up, and all of a sudden first rain comes, then hail starts to come, then wind starts to push the car to the side, right? And then all of a sudden I have snow, and it's the biggest amount of snow I've ever seen in my life. It's not the amount on the ground. It was just coming at the car to the point where I couldn't see. So now I get to the top, all the trucks pulled over to the side with chains on my back. Okay? And they're jackknifed on the side, and here I am going down this mountain sideways. And I was kind of like, I'm skiing, and I thought it was kind of fun. Didn't realize of where I was, and all of a sudden someone told me that, oh, those are high mountains and you were at the pass. And I didn't know what the pass was, but I'm glad I got past that. And so I did arrive today safely. I arrived at 4 o'clock this morning at the hotel, and they locked the door so they don't let you in. So that was an interesting thing. I won't get into that story. But anyway, I made it. So this must be one of those trials and tribulations of how do you get a job? You have to go through this, this, and this, okay? So anyway, thank you. So I'm starting off with some gratitude and wanted to say thank you to all of you who've been part of the process. So that's first and foremost there. I also want to, I was given the instruction that this kind of dialogue, I was allowed to talk about anything I wanted. And so I tried to consider my audience of what will I talk about? Will I talk about nursing? Will I talk about finance? Will I talk about accountability with the board? What will I talk about? And so what I decided to do is that I wanted to let you know a little bit more about me and who I am. Because that's one of the things that I think that everyone should understand about their leader. Sometimes you don't know who they are and kind of where their passion comes from. And I wanted to tell you about who I am there. So I started, born and raised in Philadelphia. And when I say the heart of Philadelphia, in the heart of Philadelphia, I was raised by a single mom. And I was born next to an impoverished area next to a heroin house. And so a lot of dilapidated, destitute within my community there. That's something that I didn't have. I didn't have male role models in my family. I had very strong female figures in my family. All my aunts are lawyers. They all went to Penn. My mom's the only one that's not a lawyer there. So I had very strong women around me my entire life. I had no strong men to learn from at all. So I became very passionate about wanting to be better there. And so at the time when I was young in Germantown, that's the area that I grew up in, I wanted to be a veterinarian. And that's not atypical of most kids. You know, they want to be a vet, they want to do cats and dogs. Not Dwayne. Dwayne wanted to work with cows and pigs and horses and things like that. So actually I went to an agriculture high school. It's the only agriculture high school in the city of Philadelphia. I'm been part of the Future Farmers of America. So when people say, we got this big old city guy coming to us and he doesn't know anything about the country. Actually, I do know the country. I live out the country now. I live in Carroll County in Maryland. And so I was artificially inseminating cows in 9th grade there. I went to Penn State when I was 16 years old there. Not because I'm smart, it's because I was passionate and I was driven there. So what got me encouraged of getting early on into school? Well, I used to had a problem with my hips when I was younger, when I was 14 years old, okay? And I had something called bilateral slip capital femoral epiphysis, and that's where the femoral heads slip off, okay? I wound up in the hospital for half a year in a body cast, okay? I was in the hospital, Shriners Hospital for crippled children, it was called. So that was my first journey, and when I started getting x-rays of my hips monthly, there was a woman who inspired me. Her name was Joanne Gaddy. And she actually inspired me because every time she showed me my x-ray, she didn't just say, hey, here's your hips. She said, this is, every place she pointed to, she knew a name for it. I thought she was the smartest person on earth. I said, I want to be just like her. Because she knew every bone, every prominent, every area on this image. So I wanted to be just like her. So I went to school for radiology. I was actually in the hospital, and that's when I got my passion for imaging and radiology. So I went to Penn State and I majored in radiology technology. And when I graduated from Penn State, I actually wanted to do something and give back. I wanted to be the first patient to ever come back to Shriners Hospital for Children. It's never been done in any other units. There's 21 units all over the United States. I was the first patient to ever come back and work there. Because I said if I didn't work there, I would come back and volunteer there. They don't charge anything, it costs you nothing. And basically, they saved my life. I basically have no hip problems with no surgery. Shriners is the only hospital in the world that can treat that actual issue without hitting the hips there. So in that hospital, I got to learn a lot about different diseases, diagnoses. We had kids from all over the world. We have kids from Africa. We have kids from Armenia. The Armenian earthquake happened then. We got all of the amputees that came there. I saw polio, things that you've only seen in books. I started learning a lot about medical terminology and didn't know that I was kind of liking this stuff, even though I wanted to be a vet, right? And so I I made an appointment as an x-ray tech. And I started doing pre-med because I thought I was going to be a doctor at one time. And that changed real quick. And I made an appointment with a gentleman, his name was Michael Grossman. He was the director of nursing in the hospital. He ran the hospital. At that time, you know, we didn't have a lot of, you know, chief nurse officer. We didn't have these titles back then. And I wanted to talk about, you know, going, you know, my career in medical school. He says, Dwayne, why do you want to be a doctor? And I said, well, I like helping people. He says, don't give me that. Everybody said they like helping people. He says, what kind of person are you? I said, I'm a exciting person. I love talking with people. I love engaging with people. And he says, why do you want to be a doctor? And I didn't know if he was kidding or not. And he says, you ever thought about being a nurse? I said, no, I never thought about being a nurse. I said, I don't answer call bells and I don't do bedpans. I thought that's what nursing was there. Here I am, I'm doing x-rays. I'm working with neon babies up to 18 years old. But I never knew what nursing was. And so he opened my eyes about how broad nursing can take you. I never knew about the nurse executive leaders. I never knew about nurse, advanced practice nurses and nurse anesthetists, all the different levels, flight nursing. I thought nurses were just bedside. And I knew I didn't want to do that. But he encouraged me. So I actually went to nursing school. I went to a part-time evening program. It was a 7-year program to get my BSN. I was still working as an x-ray tech. Then I had a side hustle over here at this hospital, Catholic hospital, doing adult x-ray because I like drama. It sounds kind of weird that, you know, and that's where, you know, my drama actually pushed me into having a passion for critical care, because here I was at Shriners Hospital for Children. This was also spinal cord injury unit as well, but we didn't have patients crashing. We don't want kids crashing, I know, but that's what I wanted. I wanted actually to be working on patients. I wanted to start saving some lives. I knew I couldn't do that at Shriners. So I knew I wouldn't be able to do my nursing career at Shriners. So my first job, actually, I started as a cath lab nurse, okay? They took a risk on me. This was a risk. First time, brand new nurse. I was already an x-ray tech. I did special procedures and all those other things. But usually you want 1 year, 2 years of med-surg, 1 year of critical care experience first, okay? And they took a chance on me, and I always say that sometimes you need to take a chance on an individual. And I'd say I've had lots of those breaks, where someone takes a chance on you because they see that desire and passion that you have. And then your skills are also on par with that as well. So I started doing that, and I loved it, but I needed some more stuff. Now I'm taking care of patients that are crashing. That's how I met my wife, by the way. She says, what do you do for a living? I said, I save lives for a living. And she's a nurse there. And so was doing that job full time. And my part-time job, actually, I was working in the emergency room at Temple, and also at South Jersey. I did pediatric trauma. Again, I love actual trauma. And every now and then, because I don't have hair, I may have to wipe off. I'm at Albert Einstein Medical Center in the cath lab, and I really started really coming into my own, because if you would have asked me at that time, would you ever go into management, I would have told you heck no. I loved being a nurse. I made more than my manager, so it wasn't about I was going into management because of money. I was a staff nurse making more than my manager. I worked in the cath lab. We called it the cash lab. Okay, I could make anything I want. I took everybody's call. I was able to call at other different hospitals as well. But what happens, I started hearing a lot of complaints from my own colleagues. Why don't they do that? You know, why don't they do this? And I actually kind of clapped back at them, and I said, why don't you do something about it? And that actually gave me the pause to really think about that. Can I make a difference? How do I make a difference as a staff, not that a leader? And so I have one of these mantras that I try to make everyone a leader. A lot of people don't think that they are a leader. Everyone has leadership responsibilities and accountability. It's just that, do you empower them to become leaders there? So when I'm at now in Einstein, and I'm trying to start thinking about what's my next step in careers, there's a job that opened up at Temple University Hospital. Okay? This isn't a major teaching institution, level 1 trauma center, 800-bed facility, and a job opened up, manager of a cath lab. I'm like, yes, I'm going to do it. And I met the chief nurse officer, and she hired me, and she says, do you know anything about unions? And I said, no. And she says, you're hired, right? And so my first job was at one of the largest unionized hospitals in the Tri-Valley area. We had 13 unions, 33 different contracts, okay? Didn't know anything about it. The presidents of 1199, clerical, technical, service, were all in my departments. The president of PASNAC, Pennsylvania Nurse Association, was in my department. So I had this big old a lot of collective bargaining discussions in there. Matter of fact, this big whiteboard, every cath lab has one, and it usually has what the schedule is of the day. Well, guess what? I saw these hash marks, and I'm like, well, what do they represent? And they said, that's how many days was predicted that you'll last. That's what they put on the board there. Because I was, at that time, the longest lasting manager in the history of Temple University Hospital, and I was only there 5 years. Okay? So management didn't last very long, and so what was one of the things of how did I thrive in that organization? I'm a tech, and I'm a nurse. I can do both of the jobs. But what I had to do is I had to bridge the gaps and align not only nurses and techs, I also had to do the physicians. The physicians, the cardiologists actually hated the nurses. Back in the day, cath labs were run with techs. There were no nurses in cath labs when they first started out. All the techs were getting medications. So a lot of the old school cardiologists had strong relationships with the actual techs themselves. So I had to bridge those gaps there. When I started doing some great work, I started finding out that I had an ability to bridge and integrate culture, physician culture, nursing, and technical as well. Because anytime we have nurses and techs working in the same area, you want to have drama. I don't care where you go. Any station-filled area, emergency room, the OR, cath labs, endoscopy, all the different areas where you have them working together, you're going to find the drama. So I decided that this was great, but Dwayne was still growing. I just had the cath lab, then it gave me stress, then it gave me echo, and I wanted to be a cardiac service line administrator. They weren't ready for it yet. And so Dwayne made another appointment, because I made an appointment back with the Shriners. Now I made another appointment with the person at Temple. And I said, I want you to create this position. Well, we're not really ready, we're not budgeted for it. I said, well, I want you to help me get there. So he did. He made a call to Barry Rabner. Barry Rabner was the president CEO, and still is, at University Medical Center at Princeton. So they created a position for me. I became the heart program director of the heart program, and I started their emergent angioplasty program and started all of the programming for heart services at Princeton there. Hard work, different population. A lot of people think that you know, wherever you're going, you know, where that location matches the community, and it often doesn't. Because right in Princeton, I have a huge Guatemalan population surrounding the hospital there. A lot of people aren't aware of that. I have a large Latino community, and now proper terms Latinx. Okay, Latinx, and that encompasses all the different ethnic groups within the Latino population there. And so doing a lot of grant work for and funding that I received from Princeton there, doing community work in that, doing great work, got ICAL accreditation, doing all these things. Now I'm still trying to grow. I'm still trying to grow and do some great work that's out there. And opportunity opened up and back in Philadelphia at Hahnemann University Hospital, which is now closed. Another level 1 academic trauma center, 23-story hospital. This is huge. I, as a director, had 240 employees. This is my first time having a responsibility that large, and I also had total responsibility and accountability for all of the radiologists. I was there doing their contracts. So now I am now doing things that I never thought I would have done before, okay? And doing that kind of work. Loved it. And union also there, part of a for-profit company. That was different for me. I went from nonprofit to for-profit. I spent 10 years with this company, 5 years in Philadelphia, and then guess what? I was promoted to be a COO, Chief Operating Officer, at any hospital that I wanted. There were 5 choices. I had 2 on the East Coast, 1 in Texas. I can't stand Dallas Cowboys, so that wasn't happening. And I had two on the West Coast. And so I actually appropriately chose. I wanted to be set for success. I chose a hospital called Central Linda Hospital. Okay? This hospital is in Orange County, a very affluent community. When I got there, this hospital has a 41% operating margin. Okay? Even self-pay, paid. Okay? All the nice cars that you see, Ferraris, Lamborghinis outside, they weren't my physicians. They were the visitors. They were the patients sitting out there. That was totally different from me. Again, I told you, I grew up in the hood. Okay? And so, totally different and unique for me. And so, you know, sometimes when you see different leaders and you'll say, well, what kind of environment have they been in? Have they been in an environment where they've always seen perfect? And have you ever been in an environment where you've always seen them in where they're just in a very impoverished area? Well, I've been in both there. So moving forward, okay, left California, doing great work, Now I see an opportunity back on the East Coast and Carroll Hospital, and they brought me in, and the Carroll Hospital is very similar to this hospital here. Community-based hospital, family-oriented there. Everybody knows everybody. You know what's going on in that same hospital, and this is the only hospital, again, that serves that community. Farming community. This is a farming community. We weren't a trauma center, but I can tell you it felt like we were a trauma center because we had people come in, kicked by a cow, run over by a tractor, fell off of one of their buggies there. So we've seen it all. So when we start talking about now, doing great work in the community, and again, I'm very community focused because I think that's an area where I believe that we're lacking in healthcare there. We hear about population health all the time, and we hear about equity, and then you hear about social determinants of health. But again, how much are we focusing on those social determinants of health? Are you aware that the number one predictor for your future health care is if you have a high school diploma? 80% predictor that you have a high school diploma, but yet we have lots of programs that, again, we're trying to help you get your GED, that's great. But your number one predictor is that you have a high school diploma. And so when you start talking about, are we bringing not only high school kids, are we bringing middle school kids in for mentorship programs and things like that, so we can start early on. And again, the kids are, I don't want to be a doctor, I don't want to be a nurse. You can do anything in a hospital. I don't care what you do. If you are photography, if you are marketing, if you are a painter, electrician, whatever you do, we can find a job for you here in a hospital. So it's all out there. So while I'm doing this great work at Carroll Hospital, our president, CEO of Micro Health, said, Dwayne, we want you to take some of that great work that you're doing and bring it into West Baltimore. And I said, where at? He said, well, we're about to buy a hospital called Bon Secours Hospital. Bon Secours, there are many of them around throughout the United States, but this is Bon Secours, Baltimore. West Baltimore is right now ranked as the worst neighborhood in the United States, in the 21223 zip code there. I'm scared to go to this neighborhood. So imagine anyone else coming into trying to do some work in this community, because again, this is a community that doesn't trust other individuals. There's Hopkins right down the street, and we have Shock Trauma, University of Maryland right down the street as well. So we were actually going to acquire this hospital, and my role was to become the president and COO of the actual hospital in itself, and also to create a foundation and do a lot of community work there. And so those are things that I'm passionate about. But some things started changing. We started doing some charrettes. And charrettes are basically going out to neighborhoods and holding group discussions. And kind of when you start doing a lot of mind mapping and things like that, and literally listening to the people, because their verbiage is nothing about me without me. Okay? They don't want anybody coming in to tell them what they want to do. That's actually what Hopkins did. And I know the president, Duranda, she'll tell you as well, yeah, we didn't do this right. We came in with a preconceived notion of what we were going to do. We bought all this property up, and we moved everybody out. Okay? And so that's not necessarily the right thing to do all the time. And the thing is, how do you now bring in new money, bring in new urban development, and also keep the folks that are here and let them stay so that they can still have affordable housing within their same community there. So having that change happen is just an amazing thing. Moving forward, that's what I'm kind of work that I'm doing now. And at the end of the day, this hospital is actually going to become a micro hospital. Okay, this micro hospital will only serve. We'll have 10 med-surg beds. We're going to actually offshoot a lot of the services from that community to our other sister hospital, Sinai Hospital there, and we're going to bring in community programs that they don't have, such as ENT, pediatrics, eye service, women's services there. Things that you don't ever think about, job expungement, record expungement. Do you know we actually have 100 people monthly waiting out in line around the corner just to have somebody help them with getting their crimes expunged there. Lots of issues within the city of Baltimore, and you may say, well, why do you have now interest in Yakima? Okay? Why Virginia Mason, right? And so the why is, I'm passionate about quality, I'm passionate about community and people in general. And one of the things that, and obviously lean, and one of the things that Virginia Mason does well, and I believe better than anyone else, is their lean process. And I've come from Tenet, been trained by Tenet Health, and this isn't in a dig. We all do it differently. But then there's different models that I believe that are set up for success, and you have and achieve sustainability. That's what Virginia Mason has secured, and that's something that I want to be a part of, and I also want to learn, and I also want to enhance. I want to start talking about some of those things that I've learned from different organizations and integrate those things. And those are things that I've heard loud and clear. What I've heard from a lot of you, first, thank you, because you've been very transparent. I got to hear a lot of what some of your concerns are, what's some of the things that you would like to see. So some top things, physician engagement, okay? These are things that I've heard about, that they would like to see better integration. Integration within the health system. Been there, done that. I've implemented 3 server systems within a hospital. That's usually the big hoopla. As soon as you go in, you convert the EMR system, all the docs, will walk away. That's usually the threat. You put a new system in here, Cerner, we're going to walk out there. Well, you can avoid a lot of that. But there are some growing pains. The good thing is I got to do it 3 times. The last one was perfect. The last one was perfect. This new hospital we just acquired, we're actually about to bring in Cerner over an Epic system, which is kind of backwards. But we're going to go through that process. So that's a little bit about my past. I told you about a little bit of my present. I'm married. My wife's name is Wanda. She's a nurse. She's worked at Penn most of her life in risk management. And in California, she worked in compliance and for Loma Linda University. So she's always worked for large universities there. She loves what she does. We have one daughter, one and done, that's it. Her name is Lisa. Lisa's my most favorite name in the world there. And Lisa is 12 and a half years old. She'll be 13 in June. And she was raised as a California girl. So all her friends are on TV. And she likes, having those girly things. And I told her, guess what? I'm taking you to Maryland and your best friend's gonna have the best goat ever. And she said, ew, right? So, but she has definitely transitioned well. She's I'm not gonna say straight A student, but she's on the honor roll. She got 3 Bs last report period. And so she has no idea what she wants to do, but she just knows she's not going into healthcare. Yep. So, the screen. I should have been shaking the mouse the whole time. All right. So, when I was asked to put something together, and again, I talked about past, present, and future, I wanted to talk about, who am I? And I said, well, I am this person, I am that person there. So, I'm here to make a difference. I believe that's my calling in life. Everywhere I've gone, my role has been to make a difference. I don't do things because I want to be seen. I don't like taking the spotlight. Love talking to people, but I don't need to be the center of attention. I am the person who wants to make a difference. I want to actually put a smile on each person's face every single day that I meet. I can tell you that I'm a true leader, that I'm visible. I consider myself to be transformational. What does that mean? That means being able to engage others where they follow. They don't need to follow and say, if I sit there and say, hey, I'm jumping off this hill, you guys are coming with me? You don't need to jump off the hill with me. But the thing is that being that transformational leader, I also consider myself to be a leader that is inspiring as well. How do you inspire others? Because I believe the best thing when you start talking about how do you achieve sustainable engagement, they have to feel inspired. A lot of times, and again, you may not think this way, but it's like it in many hospitals. You'll ask them, well, why do you do it that way? It's the same way, it's the way we've always done it, right? And so I always try to inspire people to do something and think differently. So I wanted to come up with an acronym there. And one of the things that I have, and I believe that people need drive, okay? And drive. Drive is that passion. What's going to actually motivate you? We all have different motivators. Some motivators for some people are money. That's their motivator. Sometimes it's, do you love what you do? Not do you like what you do, but do you love what you do? And I can tell you, I love what I do. No matter what I'm doing, I've done it all. I've cleaned toilets. I've actually worked at the Philadelphia Zoo all through high school and flipping burgers and chopping up cheesesteaks. Guess what? I had the best cheesesteaks ever there because I had drive. So no matter what you're doing, I want you to have passion about that there. I can tell you at Carroll Hospital's ranked as the number one cleanest hospital in the state of Maryland there. How do you achieve that? It's not about our perception, that's actually the community's perception of what clean is there. So it's about having that drive. Then, how about wisdom? And so wisdom can come from experience. I believe I've had a lot of experience. I don't know everything. What I'm smart enough to know is that I'm not the smartest person in the room. But I'm smart enough to know that I need everyone in this room to formulate a team. Accountability. This is something that we all have to hold ourselves accountable to, and this is something that always starts up and we slip back, okay? We start talking about, hey, we're gonna do all these things and I'm gonna hold you accountable because I'm gonna start and use a RACI matrix. I don't know if you've ever used a RACI matrix before, and that's when you can determine, well, who's accountable, who is in control of the projects and things like that, and then we put dates to them, and it's all color-coded, and that's a RACI accountability metrics. And again, you'll have accountability there, but the first thing is accountability needs to start from within, and that's the biggest thing of, and we start that from holding ourselves all accountable. And holding accountable to who? Because I always say, who's the most important person in this building? Patients. So, you know what? I said that when I was a nurse. The most important people in this building are the people. Patients come second. Now, that sounds backwards, because patients, you always say patients are first. Patients are first, depending on who's touching them from a clinical standpoint. But the most important asset in this entire building are the people. Without people, I have nobody to take care of the patients there. So your people are great. So yearning. This is something I always say that, I'm always yearning to do something different. I'd like to be the next thing. That's someone that's never done this before. I've always been, that hospital at Hahnemann that I told you about. I was the first ACR accredited program in every modality, more than any other hospital in the city of Philadelphia. So Penn didn't meet it, Jefferson didn't meet it there, but every single technologist had a certification in what they were doing. I went one step beyond just, oh, you're certified in CAT scan. When I started a cardiac CTA program and a cardiac MR program, they were certified in that. My sonographers, most sonographers, they're not RVT, where they can do vascular. But guess what? All of my sonographers, they're certified in the body part that they're scanning. If they're doing breast, they have a certification in breast, small parts, abdomen and pelvis, OBGYN. These are just some of the innovative things that I like to do. So I'm always yearning, okay, to be innovative and to have that passion there. I'm nice. Mm-hmm. Now, you know how sometimes you'll hear about, mistaking that your kindness for a weakness kind of thing. No, people find out real quick, I'm not always a yes guy. I like data, and I like to always say, help me understand. Help me understand and talk through some of your ideas with me. I'm not, and I always tell you, I'll give you 3 answers. It's either a no, but I'm gonna tell you why. And maybe, let's look into it. And the thing is, boom, we can do that, we can knock that apart, we're done. So you'll always get 3 answers from me there. And again, if it's something you need to know, I'm going to give you a reason why that's no. Perhaps it's not a good part for a portfolio for the organization. Perhaps it's not the right timing to do something. There's always going to be a reason behind it there. The nice part is also being nice to each other. One of the things that we fail to do in healthcare is that we don't take care of each other. We're always taking care of the patients, but we don't even take care of each other. So I always talk about, even with the board members, not just taking them out and we're going to have a dinner and things like that, but educating the board members. Let's talk about becoming a high reliable organization there. Let's talk about zero harm and our journey towards zero harm. There's no hospital that's achieved or health system that's achieved zero harm yet. We're always working towards those things there. Nice. What are other nice things to do? I do something that's kind of odd, but guess what? I actually have a helium tank in my office. Sounds odd, right? I take a happy birthday balloon to every single patient that's having a birthday during that week. That's something I started, and I actually have the whole Western region of 10 Health. They're still doing it. All the COOs during their rounds, they actually have a slip of which patients are having a birthday that month. That's the biggest thing you can ever do, and it's perceived as nice. It's almost kind of like when blanket warmers came out. That's the #1 biggest satisfaction thing. Everything else is going bad, throw a warm blanket on. That'll fix everything, right? In the emergency room, a dry turkey sandwich, that'll fix everything there. Same thing being nice. Doing some of these things are some of those niceties to have there. Holding other things, I would say celebrating a lot of our successes and our employees. That is something that I say is often missed. When you do an engagement survey and you hear some of these things that leadership isn't engaged, we don't even see leadership visibility there. These are things, I always say that's low-hanging fruit. We can easily fix a lot of those things. When you start talking about our satisfaction scores are in the tank, our engagement scores are in the tank, #1 first thing is getting a true engagement survey. So and again, I don't know your percentage of respondents, but that's the first thing. Focus on the number of respondents, and then earning trust. Me, a new guy coming in, I have to earn trust. It's not given, okay? So trust has to be earned. But the same thing is that when you are just merged with a new health system, there's some distrust there too. Trust me, I know it. I've been with many different health systems, and we're requiring different things. It takes a long time. Matter of fact, average time for integration is 10 years. We would like to see it happen sooner, but it's about 10 years for true integration. Cultural change, 5 years to change a culture there. Even if you say, well, Dwayne, we don't need our culture change. Nobody's trying to change your culture because nobody can steal the culture away from you, right? The culture exists within memoriam there. So, being nice, energetic. Now, as you can imagine, you all probably know that I'm a little bit energetic. I love what I do. I love talking with people. I love rounding. I love talking with our visitors. I love doing all these things. But at the same time being energetic there, and I can put a lot of different things what that E equates to. Energetic, expanding just your knowledge there. But really getting people geared up about what they do. Is the biggest thing. And then being enthusiastic. I always say that the CEO should be the chief enthusiastic officer. I should be able to rally the team that, guess what, no matter what's happening right now, I can get everyone on board. And that's something typically I have the ability to do. Not in all cases there, but energetic. So all in all, we talked about the D. We talked about the drive. I'm just going to click on guess what that spells? So Dwayne, okay? So all of those different things, when I say that I am Dwayne, that's all I can be. That's who I am. I know that I can't do it by myself, okay? I know that I need the team. I know that I can make a difference. I know that I am the patient. I'm Yakima. I'm the doctor, I'm the board member, I'm the nurse, and most of all, I'm you. So, within closing, I appreciate you as an audience, and I'll be happy to entertain any questions. Okay.
Can I ask you? Yes, so just open it up to questions.
So I loved hearing the story of your life and your experiences. Thank you so much. One of the things I'm curious about, you described, I don't know if it was an electronic health record conversion or an integration in, I believe, the prior hospital that you were in, and you said it went perfect.
Yeah.
And I wanted to hear more about it. What did you do that made a difference, and what was, tell us about that.
Perfect. So this is at Carroll Hospital. And this was a hospital that had McKesson as an EMR system and needed to be converted because this was the last hospital that wasn't on Cerner Millennium. And the biggest thing I could tell you out of all of my, what I learned most from this conversion was that I learned that in the previous hospitals, we didn't prepare enough. We didn't prepare. At this conversion, we highly prepared and we included everyone. A lot of times what we did was we focused on nurses, we had the physicians, but we left everyone else out. Volunteer department, guess what? All of our greeters, volunteers, they check people in. They're looking in the record. We left them out before, so we learned from that. And so now we included them. We included everyone in the process from dietary, our RDs, registered dietitians, everyone in the process there. So lots of prep. Then when it came time to now working with the vendor themselves, truly understanding a lot of the different power plans, because again, Cerner does have some gaps there, and when the larger you are, the more complex it gets, because then you become you go onto a hub. Okay, when you're on a hub, any change that you want to make as a CNO, there, everyone else has to accept it. That's one of the challenges. If I want to use a new sepsis bundle protocol, or any other new pathway there, the whole entire team has to discuss that. We set up teams prior to start discussing some of those protocols and the policies into place. A lot of the different documents there that are there, when you start getting into language and then looking with pronouns and things like that, we've never taken those into consideration before, where our admission folks are checking in people and asking, what would you like to be used as your pronoun there? That's typically not included in that record. Then, while we're now done all that work, testing. Typically, we've always done 1 or 2 tests. We tested the heck out of this system there. I would tell you probably over 10 times. And then that was on the clinical side. Guess what? We got that right. And I said, no, we're not just going to stop there on the clinical side. I had to do the financial component side. Because I can tell you most EMR conversions, when you do them, I'm usually going to have some revenue loss through that or delay within some of those bills. So I needed to see at least, I think I did 5 clean bills to go out first. We did those every so often. Every time when we did a chunk up, I needed to see 5 clean bills go out and see that they all crossed there. And then now when it came to implementation, it was before, we had all of Cerner come and they come with their whole posse. They hired people from all over the country, the buses and that entire thing. We actually had opened up our command center, not just at the hospital. Our major hub hospital had their command center open. That showed support for us there. That was something that we didn't do before. We had a whole health system now, or region converted, but when we had problems, the mothership didn't know anything about our issues and anything else like that. So when it came time to our downtime plans, our 24/7s or 7/24 computers and all those things, and they failed, we were sitting ducks. We actually had a whole entire supporting cast behind us. That's what we learned and why it went well. Did we have a list that we built, meaning issues list? Yeah, we had about 105 issues on there. But we're knocking them off. We had a very methodical process of issue, complete, ongoing, or whatever. And all those issues were addressed until we whittled them down to nothing there. And we didn't have one bill in error with that process. And that's why I said that was the cleanest one I've ever gone through. And I don't care who says it. When somebody says that they had a perfect one, they're lying to you. I didn't have a perfect one. I had the best one I've ever had.
So Dwayne, along that line, again, thanks for a really great presentation, very informative. But on the EMR thing, a lot of what you described is actually exactly what we did with our EMR. There was a ton of prep work, a lot of effort, and a lot of collaboration, and I think it was the best that could be done. Okay, so let's say you're here, you're the CEO, and we've got this new EMR, and you start to hear the complaints coming. There's a lot of people who are just motoring along, doing okay, maybe a little bit, the work path may not be quite what they like, but they're hanging in there. But then there's a hard nut in the middle of that really won't crack. They really are very resentful of it, and they don't like it, and they let their feelings be known. And I'm coming to you, Dwayne, what should I do? What would you do?
So the first thing is I need to work with the local team to first understand what's their true concern, because usually there's something behind that. It's usually not just the EMR system. You know, just because we had 4 clicks and now we're at 5 clicks and that person's going to leave and storm out because now they have 1 additional click, that's not the issue. My thing is, let's get down to what the real issue is. It typically isn't the EMR system. I've had doctors who left and they said they left because it wasn't that. It was due to they didn't like their contract, it was due to they didn't get reload, it was due to something else in addition to that. So I would work with the local team and that physician to find out what truly is their concern, and also even bringing in the companies. CERN, all these companies will bring on a personal one-to-one, and I can tie somebody next to their hip to come up with their own workflow there. That's not an issue. We can usually resolve a lot of their concern. The thing is, let's get you on board for it. But my thing is, when you start having those conversions, I'll usually target my providers, whether that's nurse practitioners, PAs, or physicians. Anyone who I believe will have some issues, I'm going to involve them in the process up front, so I can avoid a lot of those things. There, you can't get everybody, but I know every hospital has their group, and when you know your group, you can really heart and focus on them, and I'll have them. Actually, I'll hold hands with them. That's the biggest thing.
You kind of gave it like the headlock, but then you decided maybe holding hands.
I'm a big guy. I'm a big guy. I'm not necessarily that intimidating. But my thing is, you need to tell me why you can't use it. There's a thing that you don't want to. Okay, you don't want to use it, but you want to use it. Now the thing is, let's how to help you get to be able to cope with that thing. Because again, if I ask the poll, 70% of nurses in the United States right now, do you like your current EMR system? They would tell you no. 70% of nurses around the country don't like the current EMR system that they're using. And these are Epic users as well. So no matter what, I don't care if I gave you, if the system is considered the Bentley or the Rolls Royce, if I gave you the best, you're still going to have some issues with it because we all practice on something differently. I was on pencil and paper back in the day. EMR systems were just coming out. Hemodynamic systems were just coming out. Before, we were doing all of these things antiquatedly, and we were used to it. No more than I had a BlackBerry, and I took a long time to get me to convert to Apple. But I'm an Apple guy now. I saw another.
Yes. Dwayne, glad to have you back. It's a real pleasure to be able to see you back in Yakima. Here's my question. You've had some time, you've been on site, you've gone through, at least this is the 2nd day of interviews. You certainly had some time to learn about us. Here's my question. I'm interested in knowing, based on what you've learned, what you've studied, what you've read about us and our community, what the 2 leading priorities or concerns are for you, and what in your 100 days you would focus on. And how would you know you've moved in those 2 areas?
Okay, I think that's a great question there. I would think that right now, first thing in coming in is I have to come in and learn and listen. I'm not a person to come in and start making changes immediately. I need to learn, assess, and then start to really truly understand a lot of those things. Right now, I have all on top of the surface, but there's a lot of stuff that I'm not aware of. So I need to learn and understand that. I need to start actually forming relationships with everyone as well. That is of concern. There's also concern of right now the healthcare. I believe that this hospital ultimately at the end of the day will be the sole provider of care for Yakima. Okay, so now how do we first start best approaching that scenario with the other organization that are having some issues and concerns? I think there should be a movement now, a strategic plan, and there should be a vision plan. I'd say a Vision 2020 plan, and that's coming in. And this is all simultaneous, okay? So strategic plan, a Vision 2020 plan, and then what's most emergent and immediate right now? I'm not aware of what kind of issues that are out there from a legal standpoint that are happening with the organization. I don't have that information there. I don't have any information about the Joint Commission visit that they just had there. What are some of the first things that need to be done? My thing is, we need to keep the hospital open, okay? And we need to be an accredited facility, And anything that could jeopardize this organization, that's first and foremost. Then from the finances, I would need to really delve in, and I'm not talking about need to delve in down the road. Start looking at some of what's some of the financial plans as far as this organization there, because I believe that this organization could be 1%, 2% margin easy there. Not that it's not necessarily, and it's not that it's bad. It's done a lot better. But from a revenue standpoint, this is a business. I mean, even though we're a hospital, this is a business. And so I think that being business-minded, to start thinking about that strategic growth and how do we keep this organization on a trajectory to be profitable, ongoing. Those are the most immediate things that are there. And what you exactly described is something that I hold myself accountable to, is that I do my own 100-day scorecard. I create my own goals there, and I look to actually pose them to board members, then also my other team. Very few people are very unlikely to do that. We don't like to hear about ourselves. We don't like to hear, when I sit there and say, we're going to do a 360 feedback. You've heard about them, you do them, and you go, well, I don't really want to hear about myself there. But sometimes we need to hear some of those things, because sometimes there's things that you may not be aware of that's happening there. And my thing is, where I'm going to hear it the most is from the team. If I'm actually going off, I always look for the team to sit there and go, Dwayne, we've been down that road, and we don't want to go down that road anymore. We need a good course correction. We need to go this way. That's the kind of thing that I need from the team as far as in doing that. And again, it's not about Dwayne coming up with the whole entire plan. It's about the whole team doing that, including the employees there. That's why I actually take their engagement surveys and responses very seriously. That's important to me. It should be important to everyone in here, but from a board perspective, that should be huge there, because often we do these engagement surveys and we don't do anything with the information. Okay? And matter of fact, the survey will tell you, I'm not going to even answer this time because you didn't do anything the first time. And my thing is, what did we do to give them feedback as far as, and here are all the things we've done? Because matter of fact, somebody can go through all your history right now and tell you all the great things you've done in 2019, but many people won't remember them. Okay? So it's one of those things of celebrating your successes, and we got to actually keep putting it up. Even though you sit there and say, hey, we do employee engagement, we had a cookout, we had a party, we did this, we did that, they forget very easily. And then they sit there and say, we're not appreciated. Trust me, I was a night guy for a long time. I always felt underappreciated as a night guy. Okay? So that's why I round personally at night, and I round on weekends. Nobody knows. I just show up, and it freaks people out. Now I've discovered some odd things coming in on the weekends and after hours, from sleeping to everything else. And trust me, I know I was that night guy. So all the hustles that are out there, I probably know them because I probably did some of them back in the day. But we all know that it's not right. But my thing is, when you start taking, again, accountability for ourselves, then that's when we start seeing better progress.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, so Dwayne, how would the docs that you work with, the medical staffs, describe you, do you think?
They would describe me, and again, I'm trying to think of, because they're at different levels of docs. So I have physician leaders, or the clinical. The whole,
like the physician leaders that you may work with, and also the docs who are mainly just clinically oriented.
I would say the first thing that they would say is Dwayne cares. That would be the first thing that they would lead with, is that he truly cares. Often you'll find some leaders that are doing things because either someone instructs them to do it or they're just doing. And my thing is, if you don't have the substance and the caring behind it, that's the biggest thing. I always say that, I tend to care bravely, and what does that mean in caring bravely? Caring bravely is managing differently than like any other person that is out there. Caring bravely is that if I have my mom who has diabetes, and I send her down the street to the left of Hopkins, and they give her pills for her diabetes, or I send her down to the street to the right, and they gave her IV medication for her diabetes. But what about if they sent my mom to my place of work, and we gave her stove? That's caring bravely. That's the part about making a difference and doing something that totally never, not, we can't give stoves to everybody. Okay? But in this instance of when do you decide to go outside of the box? And again, let's say if we start subsidizing someone for their medication prescription program, and then with 340B pricing and our cancer drugs and things like that, we have a lot of cost that is out there. But I would definitely tell you, a physician would say that Dwayne cares there. I mean, they would say lots of other things that are there, that he's the only person that has gotten people to be engaged. That's something that I had that knack to do. Doesn't happen overnight. I can't tell you that I can do it in 3 months, but I can definitely tell you that it will happen. As far as how do you get, not just engagement, let me be clear, sustainable engagement. Many people can't achieve sustainable engagement. You'll get them hyped up, and then all of a sudden, you walk away, and that's what happens to us as leaders too. You stop doing the rounding. You sit there and go, oh, I can't be there that day. And you can't do this and that day. And my thing is, if you don't have sustainability within the rounding or having the other things, it's not going to stick. If leadership doesn't own it, it's not going to stick.
Go ahead, Tim.
So thanks, Dwayne. Obviously, you got some great experience and prepared a great presentation. As you think about all the organizations you've been exposed to, worked in, lots of diverse experiences in healthcare. What would you, as you think about leaders that you've worked with, what would you identify as maybe the two most aspirational or top strengths of a really successful CEO?
Top strengths of a CEO: motivator, visionary. Those are two things that I believe should be the top strengths. I can tell you that about 69% of CEOs who are put into their first-time CEO role will tell you that they were not prepared. Okay? Because many CEOs are put into that role and they didn't really want to be in that role. They were usually in another role and it just happenstance. I've been an interim CEO by happenstance because my boss left there and I was interim there. And so the difference in this case is that I want to be in that actual position by choice. I can tell you as a true operator, because I love the nitty gritty there, I never got the passion until I was the interim CEO. When I was the interim CEO, as an operator, I never worried about vision and planning and started thinking about, because I can tell you, I had one urgent care center and I had one of having four urgent care centers. 2 of them were strategic. I had somebody coming in our own backyard, so I had to be on the defense there. I had different levels in our ER where we didn't have people appropriately come to our ER for the wrong reasons. I put in a ER and quicker where you can actually, and again, this doesn't happen everywhere. So in Orange County, you actually could make an appointment to come to the emergency room. You made an appointment to come to the emergency room. And our times to be seen by a physician were so great, it was less than 3 minutes to be seen by a physician. It was so great, we actually had to take the clock down. Because we had on our website of time to be seen by a physician, it was always usually, within minutes. What happens is that we had people from LA County didn't come into change our payer mix. We had to stop that real quick there. So those are 2 skill sets that I believe has to happen, but not just for the CEO. I believe also for the entire leadership team. One of the things that middle management is usually folks that we don't focus on the most. I think that we should focus on leadership development there. If there's not a leadership academy that exists within Virginia Mason, there probably should be one. Okay? A leadership academy should include not only the leaders, but we should also have emerging leaders as part of that. Who's the next person? Because we don't want to plan for that either. We don't want to plan for somebody to take our job, but we as good leaders should plan for someone to take our job. And my thing is, if something, God forbid, something happens to one of us, somebody should be able to step in there. And if we don't have that person there, then we failed.
That's great. So you made an interesting comment. about patients. Who's the most important person in this building? And you said the people in this building, the workforce. Can you talk a little bit about the patient experience? Everybody's focusing on patient experience work, and how that dovetails and blends with employee engagement. Where do you start and how do you move that forward?
Well, that's something that's always been a challenge there in moving your HCAP scores. And again, your HCAP scores want to be definitely reflected from your employee engagement. And not just employees, but a lot of times we're already talking about our primary force, our nurses, but our physicians are part of that too. Our providers are part of that process for experience as well. So there's a direct correlation of unhappy employee, physician, we're going to have an unhappy patient there. I can tell you right now, even without knowing, even though I've looked at your because everything's public, you can find everything. The top 3 issues with our HCAP scores that are here exist all around the country. From quiet at night to understanding your medications, and then usually something to the fact that communication. Communication is one of the big things that we're all lacking there, and it's usually provider to provider, provider to nurse to nurse to patient. There, we always have that weak link that is there. Those are things that we can always govern and improving there. But I believe if you want putting in hardcore processes to improve those, such as hourly rounding, okay, that's definitely something. It's confirmed it works, okay, but we actually backslide again. We get away from it. So how do I now hold people accountable to doing things? No, I'm not going to go ahead and put, I have my badge on me. There's devices on your badge that every time you go in and out can detect how often am I rounding truly on the patient. Or I can have a button on my nurse call system and hit that every time I go out, and I can track that as well. That exists. I can tie that to hand washing as well, how many times people can enter in and out and track their hand washing experience there. But the whole entire thing is with the experience is holding also forums and groups. When I'm trying to put these together, a community forum, okay? So that's all of my patients who've had bad experiences, some good experiences too, holding those sessions, and let's talk about how you are going to help us improve there and holding us accountable. Same thing for our team of our core team, of our engagement team, having that team lead. And then finally getting a provider team. That's usually the one, most people have the first 2. That's the one that most people are lacking. Having a provider team, and their whole focus is to come in and complain about what's this or that. It's literally come in and talk about how can they better help the other 2 groups and focus on those things. By doing all those things together, I can now improve employee engagement, okay, physician engagement, and then having those outcomes for HCAP scores, all those other things, and literally start targeting each one. We'll have somebody, as a champion, say, hey, you're the champion and you're on quiet at night. Oh, okay, we're going to put a yakka tracker in. You guys know what a yakka tracker is? It's a stoplight, okay? That's the red, yellow, and green stoplight. If you talk, it measures decibels of how loud the nursing station is. Well, guess what? The most newly formulated hospitals right now actually have no nursing station. They got rid of it. Brand new facility, no nursing stations. You have alcoves, and then you have your pod there. But they got rid of nursing stations there, because that's where a lot of the noise came from at night. That's where a lot of physicians came, and the physicians came and stole the PC, and then you had this whole war, so we get everybody in their little cubbies. And so when we actually created a whole new hospital at Princeton, that's what we actually took into account for his engagement there, and focusing on some of those things. There. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thank you. Thank you. Other questions?
We need more people. Any other questions? Well, thank you guys. It's been a pleasure. Once again, you have my gratitude. Once again, so I always like to start off meetings with thanks and giving thanks. And also I usually start off with an inspirational message prior to every meeting. And then I always end on a positive note as well. We'll hear about all of the other the crime and the grime of what's happening in the organization in the middle there. But I think always starting off on the positive and ending on a positive is the best thing, and it's truly not fake. I always say that, when people say, oh, well, is he all talk? Right now, I always say that, yeah, give me a chance, and you'll see if I can make a difference or not. All right? Thank you.
Thank you.